And he stood up and he said, "How dare you tell me that, I've been surviving and not creating?" And he got angry and he shouted at me. But then, I am Dan Warburton, a transformational coach who's known for having enabled thousands of entrepreneurs and business owners to succeed in extraordinary ways. I've also got web spaces full of testimonials backing this up, and I'm often invited to speak to audiences of thousands around the world about what transformation makes possible. I now get to live an extraordinary lifestyle, and I want you to be able to experience the same. Today, I'm going to show you how one shift, one insight can completely transform the rest of your life and the way people relate to you. So with my dad, whenever I had something that I want to tell him or show him, I felt like he never listened to me. I felt like he never saw my opinion or where I stood, and that whatever I did, it never seemed to be good enough for him. And then through coaching, I was brought back to an event that happened to me when I was 3 years old. I've told you about this in my previous videos. And my dad shouted at me, and in that moment I went and made it mean I'm just not good enough, nobody wants me. Now what happened was I didn't realise, but from that event onwards, that's how I'd gone and interpreted myself and the world around me. So whenever I met my dad, I was constantly ready to, win over him with my opinions or my insights. Why? Because my biggest fear was being seen as not good enough and not wanted in his eyes. Truth is, it was something I invented from a past event. My father was never thinking that, but that's how it really seemed to me. And so I was constantly on this mission to prove to him how great I was, how well I was doing, and all these things. But once I saw the event and I saw the interpretation, the I'm not good enough, nobody wants me, I then saw it wasn't true and that I'd invented it, and it just vanished. And then one day I went home and I rang the doorbell to my parents' house, and my father opened the door and he looked me in the eye and he looked down at my feet and he looked back up again, and I didn't say anything at all. I just stood there. And he said, "Wow, sunshine, what's happened to you?" Now, I'd gone through an absolutely profound transformation. All it was that I'd become aware that that's how I'd interpreted myself, and I'd freed myself of it. But it meant that when I then met my dad, I didn't have to prove to him that I'm good enough and all this. So I didn't say anything. I was just really tranquil and calm. Then we sat down, and over the next few months, my businesses began to succeed, and I began to have good money coming in, and everything started to fall into place. And my father said to me, "Sunshine, what is this transformational stuff that you're doing?" So I said, "Well, let me show you." So we sat down together, and during this session, I enabled him to see that he'd spent his life surviving, not creating. That he'd spent his life actually trying to get somewhere instead of create. And as we sat there, I said this to my father, and he was listening to me, which was incredible for him to be listening to my insights into what I had to say. And then after I said that, he got really angry, and he stood up and he said, "How dare you tell me that, I've been surviving and not creating?" And he got angry and he shouted at me. But then, because I was able to be so emotionally still and calm, it gave him space to reflect on what I was saying. And he managed to pause beyond his initial emotional triggers. And then he said, "Wow, Sunshine, you're right. I have spent my life surviving and not creating." And he had this huge insight where he'd realized that every day he was getting up in this automatic routine instead of because of a future that he wanted to create. And when he saw that, it was huge for him. It was a huge transformation. He then said to me, "Sunshine, you're very good at this. You thought about doing this professionally?" And I said, "Well, Dad, you're the third person that's told me that this month, so I think I'm going to look at doing this professionally." And this was only January 2016, so a little while ago. And ever since then, I've grown a successful coaching practice. But the best part of all this is, my father has become one of my coaching clients. And I've now coached my father to grow his business internationally. He's now the managing director of the company that's pioneering ticket reservation systems for ferry companies all over the world. It's just absolutely amazing. And whenever my father's stuck or he needs some insights, he picks up the phone to me. And it's so heartwarming for me to be able to give back to my father like that, and to see my father succeed and enjoy the lifestyle that he is now. If you've got an entrepreneurial friend, then make them feel special by sharing this video with them. Also, feel free to contact me about anything. And don't forget, if you're truly committed to succeed, then hit that subscribe button.